Welcome back to part 2 of making a foam space helmet right here on the Evil Ted channel. Now, before we start painting, we're going to start with the helmet first. We're going to add some additional details. We're going to put some screw holes. I have my white marker. I'm going to go through here and make the marks where I want my little screw rivets to go. Oops, not too much, just a little bit dab here. I want to do them on the just above the ear. I want right back here. I want one right here. And I want one dead center. There. All right, now that we have that done, before I start going in with the wood burner, right here in the front, there's a little bit of additional detail that I put on Adam Savage's helmet that I forgot to put on this one, and I really liked it. It's a little piece of textured foam, and I just want to break up this chin right here. So let's apply a little bit of contact cement here and stick this guy down. Line it up just like that. There you go, perfect. Now we're going to take the wood burner and go in making holes for our rivet detail. Now again, I have some small screws. The holes don't need to be big. Just get the thread of the screws to go in. Just like that. I know what you're thinking, why not do all this stuff before you seal it? I always find it's easier to go back with a wood burner and make some screw holes, because if you do this before you seal it, I find the wood burner has to burn the foam a little bit too much, makes the holes too big. And I think it's easier, a lot cleaner, just to do everything after you seal it with the wood burner. Okay, we have all the holes now for the screws. So I realized too, on these guys, I went out and got some bigger screws, which are these guys right here. So we're going to go ahead and burn the holes for those as well. There you go. And that can be a little bit bigger because there's some bigger screw heads there. Like that. There. Another thing I like to do before I put the screws in is I do a little bit of super glue. I'm going to use some Zap-gap. I like to dab just a little bit on the hole. Like that. You don't need a lot. That guarantees your screws will not unthread. So let's go ahead, screw it in. When making foam costumes and props, I realized that some people like to use little googly eyes and things like that, but since they're so small, I thought, why go one step further and just go ahead and use real hardware and use real screws, especially short threaded screws that won't poke through the foam. It's really easy to use, and it just really adds an additional realism and detail to your costume. All right, now we have all the big screws are mounted. I'm gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do a little super glue right here, a little dab like that, and the screw. All right. I found what is actually easier is to put glue on the threads of the screw itself. So you just do a little dab, that's all you need. You line up on the foam and you just screw it in. There you go. Just like that. All right, we have all the screws mounted into the collar and the neck ring part. Let's move on to the helmet. Ta-da! Okay, we have all the screw details put into the helmet. Now we're going to move on to step 1. Before painting, we're going to mask off the inside lip. It's very important. The reason we're masking this off is because this is going to be a contact point where we're going to glue the visor in. And I don't want to have any paint. I don't want to have any paint on this lip. And take a sharp craft knife. The lip has been all properly masked off. On this little foam part right here, before we put any paint on, I'm just going to take a little bit of some Mod Podge and just seal the foam with that real quick. Okay, now it's sealed up. We're going to go ahead and take this to the spray booth, and we're going to lay down Rust-Oleum 2X Silver. The reason we're doing this, I'm going to do a silver base because we're going to go back in and do the rubber latex and do the chipped paint technique. So on the helmet and the collar, we're going to go ahead and lay down some silver first. Okay, the silver paint is now dry. Our next step is going to be adding latex to the corners. I like using these small disposable chip brushes here. These are great because once you use rubber latex on them, they're pretty much trashed. So, and when doing this, take your time, no rush. Put a lot of thought to it and hit those little corners. I always find sometimes less is more, you know? Okay, we have both the parts got a little bit of latex on the corners. It's all dry. Now we're going to go on to painting. We're going to start with the helmet first. For the color of the helmet, I'm going to be using the Rust-Oleum 2X Real Orange. When painting, make sure to not get any paint on the inside. We want to keep this black, make it a lot cleaner and easier to work with. Okay, next we're going to be painting the collar. We're going to be doing this with Rust-Oleum 2X Dark Gray. And when we paint, we're going to focus on just the lower collar part. This is all going to be hitting this and that, and we're going to leave this alone because we're going to paint this black eventually. So not worry about that. So go ahead and it's going to cover all this with the dark gray. While the paint is drying, we're going to go ahead and work on the visor here. I have some automotive pinstriping tape, and I want to take a little bit of it. I'm going to run it along the edge of our visor. And the reason I'm using the automotive pinstriping tape is because it actually stretches and curves a little bit, and it would be great because we're going to use this as our masking. Okay, now when you get up to the curved area here, what I like to do, pinstriping tape is it's a bit flexible, so you can kind of pull it and stretch it as you lay it down on the edge. Okay, we have the pinstriping all in here. This is going to be our gauge. We're going to take our frog tape. We're going to mask off the visor. Now when it gets to the edge, I just take the frog tape and go all the way to the edge, just like that. Okay, we have it completely covered now with the tape, and then with the, I've gone over the tape. You just take a craft knife and you just follow the line and cut like that. See? Perfect. Other side. Like that. Now, go back and let's take the pinstriping tape off. Now it's been removed. This is going to be the edge. We're going to be painting this black. We'll be using Rust-Oleum 2X flat black. I highly recommend we go ahead and take some frog tape and cover the whole back half, because even though you're spray painting the front edge and being careful, paint has a tendency to reach around and get on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and cover this with frog tape. All right, the inside is now taped up. Now let's go ahead and take it to the spray booth. Okay, the helmet and the collar is dry. So let's go ahead and take the helmet off this post. Now, using hot glue, if you try to pull it, sometimes it'll twist and distort your surface. And I found if you use some alcohol and you squirt it directly onto the hot glue itself and just pry at it, it'll nicely delaminate from the foam very carefully. Ta-da, look at that, nice and clean. Let's go ahead and demask the edge. All right. And now let's grab some acrylic paint and start doing some aging. Then we're going to lay down some cardboard so I don't get my mat dirty. Okay, for the aging, we're going to be starting with the helmet. Now you notice on the rubber latex, I didn't peel any of that up. I want to leave that on. I'm going to do that last. So we're going to go ahead. We got a bit of a black wash. I use some Mars acrylic. And when aging, you know, go ahead, get in there and get all the nooks and crannies, because that's exactly when to get all that in there. Go ahead and grab the collar, do the same thing. Okay, now we got them both covered with the black wash acrylic. I'm going to take a paper towel and just do some blotting. You can take a chip brush, a dry one, and go back like this and kind of spread it out, and I'll make it more even and less spotty. It'll definitely thin it out and it'll dry a lot faster. Okay, the acrylic paint is now dry. Let's focus on the helmet. Now we're going to take our alcohol, apply it to a paper towel, and we're just going to wipe on the highlights. See, and that's going to take off the acrylic on the high points. This is what makes Rust-Oleum 2X paint so awesome, because it's super strong and durable that you can wipe off the acrylic with alcohol without damaging the paint underneath. And it gives this really nice kind of organic aged look I love. Be sure to get a big roll of paper towels because you'll go through them pretty quickly. Yeah, this is great. Let's go ahead and move on to the collar. Now we're going to go back in with our craft knife. I'm going to find out where the latex was. I'm going to peel it up to create that. Oh, look at that already. The chip paint. Okay, looking it over. This looks great. Let's do the same thing with the helmet. Okay, went through. Go. Oh, this looks so great. All the edges are done. All right. As for paint, this helmet looks good. Let's go ahead and move back onto the neck ring. Now our next step is going to start painting this the neck collar right now. We're going to go ahead and base these edges black. We're going to use black as a base. My plan is we're going to paint this black first, just this edge and this inside lip, and we're going to lay down some dark metallic Plaid FX. I've always found when you're doing metallics, it's always good to have a black base. Okay, now that we have the outside edge black, let's go ahead and paint the inside lip black as well. All right, you know what, come to think of it, let's go ahead and let's paint the inside lower lip as well. Okay, the black is all dry. We got the inside lip, the outside edge, and the underneath. We're gonna take this to the spray booth and we're gonna airbrush some Plaid FX Samurai Sword color. And with this stuff, you can thin it down with a window cleaner and it goes right through an airbrush. So let's do that. All right, there it is. Metallics all on the inside and the underlip. Great. Now we're going to take the Plaid FX black and we're going to paint just underneath the lip all the way to the piping. This whole area is going to be black. All right, there it is. We have our black all the way around. It's been done. This looks great. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. We're going to grab our helmet. So now the next step is our paint jobs are complete. So to seal the acrylic paint, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of a Rust-Oleum 2X clear coat. We're going to dust these guys both in the spray booth. All right, now the clear coat is dry. We're going to move on to installing a fan and lights. I always like to start with the difficult thing first. So let's start with the lights on the helmet. For the lighting, we're going to use this LED strip we have right here. The plan is I'm going to run a light strip just about under 8 inches, about right here on the top. Then we're going to do about 8 inches of wire here, another 8-inch light strip here. Then we'll run the wires over to here and hook it up to a battery pack. Now the battery pack we're going to be using is a 9-volt battery. And this panel right here is the 9-volt battery holder. Of course, I cut it out of 2mm foam. And how we put this together is we take some contact cement and we go on the outside edge here. Like that. And then on this lip here, we put contact cement on the edge right here. Now the glue is dry. I'm going to fold this tab up like this, bring it up to the edge, make contact like that. Other side, fold it up, make contact just like that. Folds together and then fold it around. Making sure it touches the edges like that. And like that. That is our 9-volt battery holder. The 9-volt battery holder is going to go right here in the back of your helmet, like so. But before we glue this in, let's go ahead and finish the wiring. Okay, with our light strips, we're going to go ahead and cut these guys to length. Go ahead and measure real quickly here, a little under 8 inches. Now when cutting, these little 4 tabs, these are the contacts we're going to put when you set up your wires. So we're going to cut that right on the line. And that's the safest place to cut right there. Just like that, that cut. Let's go ahead and cut 2 of these. Okay, now we're going to cut our wire, our red and there's a positive and negative black. We're going to cut these 2 lengths. We're going to cut the first one at 8 inches. And then we're going to cut another strip at 12 inches. We need to expose the wire on the end. We're going to use our wire stripper. And we have to strip all the ends. Now we have some of this Rust-Oleum paste flux. We're going to add this to the end of the wires. And this will allow the solder to flow in really nicely. We got my hot soldering gun and got a little solder. Load it up. Let's put a little solder on the wires. Yeah, just like that. So we're going to do this to all the ends of the wires. Okay, here's the tricky part. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of, oops, sorry. Just want to add a little bit of flux to these guys. And what we do is we want to get a little bit of solder on the end of these guys, just a little bit. There you go, a little tab, like that. And that'll help the wires connect. Okay, now that we've got the flux on both, just going to apply some heat. Red for positive. So line them up and touch them. And now I'm going to do the black for the negative. Yeah, sorry guys, this is way too difficult to try to hold in front of camera. So I'm just going to hold this down on my slab of marble here and solder these two together. Okay, now they're soldered together. Good thing you get a 9-volt battery and periodically check your wiring to make sure everything is working. Yep, good. Okay, this is for the top of the helmet. Let's go ahead and chain the lights for the bottom part of the helmet together. Okay, we got our 8-inch. Now we're going to add to the very end of this one, continuing the chain here, wires 12 inches long. Okay, now we got them stringed together. Let's go ahead and hook up our 9-volt battery hookup. And I tell you what, before we put these together, let's get some heat shrink tubing. And this is good. Just gonna, once we're done, we'll heat shrink the around our connections. All right, solder them together. Now the soldering is done. Put my heat shrink tubing over the connections to protect them, like that. Pull heat to it. Let's get our battery, make sure everything's working. Ah, perfect. Okay, we have our helmet. Now, before we install them, let's go ahead and put in our battery pack. I'm going to go ahead and use some contact cement on this. Now the contact cement is dry, line her up, dead center, mounted. Now for the light switch, I am right-handed, so if I want to reach up and hit the switch, I'd like it to be on the right side. You can see it. I'm going to make my craft knife and cut a small hole for it. All right, let's place our lights. The cool thing about this stuff, has a double adhesive on the back. So we're gonna go ahead and go inside here, and get our center line, find out exactly where it's gonna fall. Gonna take a Sharpie mark. I know that's my center, got it. Okay. Now remove our adhesive backing. See, that's why I have the Sharpie mark. So once it sticks down, it's pretty sticky, so it's not gonna come back up. So I wanna make sure I get this centered. Now I'll go do the same thing. Line up on the bottom edge. Do a little check. Make sure we're still working. Excellent. And secure them with some hot glue. I'll be using my shear bonder, and I have some black shear bonder glue. Like that. I'm going to hold it with a silicone pad to kind of flatten it out a little bit. There we go. Nice. Now we're going to run over here, and in this guy we're going to run the red wire outside for the switch. Loop on it like that, push it through like this. There you go. And before we start wiring up, let's go ahead and hot glue these guys down. The wire poking through. Let's go ahead and cut it. That. I'm going to feed it through. A little solder on this guy. Okay, stuff our switch back in. Do a test real quick. Off, on. All right, the hot glue is all dry. It's secured. The light switches are working. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take some Plaid FX black. I'm gonna go in here and just paint anywhere where you see the wires, just to make sure you don't see them. So when in doubt, black it out. While the black paint is drying, let's demask our visor. And there it is. Now let's glue this onto our helmet. All right, we have our helmet. We have our visor. Now again, when you're doing this, you have to pay attention. Make sure that that little tab right there in the front, that's the top. And a little bit of that lip is on the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly do a test fit. We're gonna open this up, flex it open, and drop it right in here. Do a little push fit. Big spots that makes the most contact is on this edge right here. And now with our goop glue, we're going to add a little bit to the edges. A little bit more on the edges here. Like that. And there. Okay. Now when you put the visor on, make sure you're going to open this up a little bit. You're going to flex it open. Again, the top right there, line it up. With the bottom, line up, flex it open, come down, let it drop on the lip. Push it in place, make sure it's making contact. Perfect. While it's together, some plastic wrap. This is going to help put the visor in place. Now this is all wrapped up. While this is drying, let's go ahead and install our fan into the collar. There is, and now we have our helmet cooling fan. We're going to install this. Now some come with the grid, some do not, but either way though, you have to make sure this is facing outward. It's going to suck the air in. And we're going to hot glue that bad boy in like this. Going to reinforce this with some hot glue. Okay, we have the fan properly glued in there. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to run the wire on the outside for the switch. Now this one has a switch on it, so when you do glue it down, the panel I want to have access to is this one, the small one, and the switch is on this side. So when you glue it down, make sure the switch is in the on position. I know for a fact that goop would really hold this better bond, but since I want to wait with, I'm going to go ahead and do some goop on here and use the hot glue to hold it in place while it dries. So let's go ahead and apply some goop here. And so we'll place it right next to the fan like this. I'll just use some hot glue. Again, I'm right-handed, so I'd like the switch to be here on the right side, or we could hide it probably right back here. We got the little switch, ring detail. Yeah, this will tuck in nicely right in there. A little slot. There we go, perfect. Okay, now we got this. Let's go ahead, hot glue this in place. Okay, now the hot glue is all cured. It's nice and flat. I went ahead and wired up the switch right here. Let's do a test, turn it on. Yeah, there it goes. It is working. Now for the moment of truth. Let's put it all together. And there it is, how to make a foam space helmet. Everything I used on this build is listed below the video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, leave comments below, and hit that subscribe button. This has been something I've always wanted to build since I was a kid. I love space helmets and space movies. And what made it possible was these visors I got from Shooting Star, which is the Gath replaceable visor, small to medium. It's groundbreaking. I have to admit though, if I was to make this all over again, they have different colors, and I probably would have did this with yellow. I think yellow would have been cool, but either way, it's done. I'm happy with this so much. And again, everybody, if you end up building one, please tag me in all social media. And while you're at it, jump over to my website, eviltedsmith.com, where I have other patterns as well. Get on my mailing list and hit my event page so you guys know where I'll be next. This was a blast making, and the more I think about it, I want to build additional things for this costume. Maybe a backpack, some glove patterns, who knows? Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you back next time right here on the Evil Ted channel.